All right, so I just got out of Scream 5. I just saw the new Scream movie. I can't believe it. We saw it at this theater in Philadelphia. There's my sister and my friend. And we saw Scream 5, guys. What do you guys think?
Oh, it's so warm. It says use.
It was good.
It was awesome. I loved it. Guys, this was awesome. So great. I can't believe it. It's one of the best Scream movies. I can't wait to see it again. I loved it. Awesome.
Sorry, now I'm cold.
What did you guys think?
Oh, it was awesome.
Good.
I don't know which one.
Isn't that one of the best Scream films? That's gotta be.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, oh my god. And it was like the first Scream movie that like got me emotional
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, you actually felt that.
Yeah, yeah. That was a great ending. I'm very satisfied, but it went so fast. I was amazed by the pacing of the film.
Yeah.
That it felt like 40 minutes. It didn't even feel like it's like an hour.
It is like an hour and 15 minutes.
It was so quick.
I agree they did
That's big.
Because like the first three films, especially Scream 2 and 3, they took their time. You know,
yeah, 3 is the longest.
they took their time, but this was quick. So, but it was awesome. We loved it, and I can't wait to do a review, and I can't wait to make a video for the next Scream movie, because I know they're going to make another one after this. So, thank you guys. This was awesome. Woo! Scream 5! Woo!
Hello everybody, this is RBR Short Films 13, aka Ryan, and today I am doing a review of Scream 5. Scream 5. I can't believe I saw this movie. I can't believe that it's real. Some Ghostface love right there. I really like this movie. I really enjoyed it. But it's not Scream 2, and it's not the original film for me. I do think it's better than Scream 3 and Scream 4. I love... let's start with what I liked about this movie, or loved about this movie. So, I'll just get it over with. I give this a 9 out of 10, over a 10 out of 10. The first one I give 10 out of 10, Scream 2, 10 out of 10, Scream 3, a 4, 5 out of 10, and then Scream 4, 7 or 8 out of 10, around there. But this is a 9 out of 10, so it's the highest rated for me after the first two films. And I'll explain. What I loved about this movie was the cinematography. The cinematography was a mix between Wes Craven and Ready or Not directors. The Ready or Not directors did an incredible job with this movie. To not be Wes Craven, to not be him, and have to direct a Scream film without any involvement from Wes Craven. They did a really great job, in my opinion. Absolutely phenomenal. I love Ready or Not, and I've seen it multiple times because I really enjoy that film. So when I heard that they were doing Scream 5, that's when I did watch Ready or Not, because I didn't know about that movie until I heard that they were announced, and then I watched Ready or Not, and I was like, wow, this is really good. More than good. I mean, Ready or Not is a really good horror film. So I knew that when they were signed on to do this movie, it was going to be dark, brutal, and probably the darkest out of all of them. The most gutsy out of all the films. I love that Neve Campbell's back. David Arquette, Courtney Cox, they were all great in this film. I grew up with those characters. Not necessarily, the first three movies. I mean, by the time the third one came out, I was 4.5. No, was I 4? Almost 4.5. and I was too young, to know about this franchise. But I did hear about it for like a lot. I heard about the series everywhere it went. Like everybody talked about Scream. Scream was bigger than anything. I mean, it was on the down low though. Like a lot of kids watched it, and didn't want their parents to know because Scream was it looked intriguing to watch because it wasn't just a generic slasher film. There was meta humor. There was, a lot of comedy. There was, you know, a lot of, big actors. I mean, it was a little different, very different from the generic, Friday 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween. So I remember seeing the first movie as when I was like eight or nine, and I loved it. I thought it was a great film. It was a great. I think my favorite part of the film was the killer reveals, the third act. I love Stu's house and the way it looked, and the kitchen, and the whole killer reveal, and the whole third act. I just thought it was a brilliant movie. And then I remember watching Scream 2 about a year after that, and I enjoyed it even more than the first one. But I watched the first one more than any of them growing up because the first movie was to me the most rewatchable out of all the films. Um, and then Scream 4 came out, and I loved it. I don't love it now. I really like it, but I don't love it. But I loved it when it first came out. And that was the first Scream movie that I ever saw in the theater. That's my first experience seeing a Scream film in the theater. It was great. Um, and it wasn't a packed audience. Same with this new movie, the new Scream 5. Surprisingly, with the Scream audience, it's not packed. But the re-release, though, of the first movie was packed. That was probably my favorite experience with the Scream film, even though I've already seen the first movie, because the audience was involved. They were engaged. They were, talking throughout the film. They were invested. They clapped, they cheered, they laughed. Like there was involvement with the audience, which we're living in COVID right now, so it's a pandemic, so it is pretty powerful that you hear people react to a film in a way that movies that remember from years ago, people reacted to years ago of other films, and you feel like nothing's changed in that moment. So the Scream re-release was a lot of fun, uh, and Scream 5, I was really nervous about it because Wes Craven wasn't directing it, but we'll go into now, of course, the things that I love about it. Sorry that I rambled a little bit. What I loved about this movie was the cinematography. The cinematography. It was shot just like the first two movies. It had that look. Something that's been missing with the franchise for a long time is that the cinematography. Because Scream 4 had like a little darker kind of contrast and saturation and brightness compared to the previous films. And this film, Scream 5, went back to how the first three movies looked. So I really enjoyed that. I also enjoyed the music score. Now I know this is the Ready or Not music composer, which I did in fact really like his music in Ready or Not. So I was very impressed with his score, and I wasn't necessarily worried because Ready or Not was such a great score. I am disappointed that Marco Beltrami didn't come back for this, or that the studio didn't want him to come back. I think it's more that the Ready or Not directors didn't want him to come back and they wanted to use their own composer. Um, but I would have brought back Marco Beltrami in an instant. He scored the first. He scored the first one and all four. Who else do you go to score the Scream films? Now, I don't know the behind the scenes. Maybe in fact, Marco Beltrami didn't want to do it, which is that is a shame because he's always been one of my favorite music composers, and I loved his music for that franchise. And but this guy did a really good job, writer not composer. He brought back Dewey's theme, I think Gail's, and then Sydney's theme. And then Red Right Hand, he brought back Red Right Hand theme. There was a scene, I won't give it away, but there was a scene that has the theme in it, and it's done really brilliant. And I loved it because that's something that I missed in Scream 4. When I after I saw Scream 4, I was confused as why Red Right Hand wasn't in that movie. Why would you not include Red Right Hand or Sydney's theme? You know, because Dewey's theme was sort of in Scream 4. It wasn't like the original theme, but it was like, a little updated. So this movie definitely fixed those, errors with the music. And, it was impactful because it wasn't throughout the whole film. Um, but I really enjoyed hearing Red Right Hand. I loved hearing um, that theme. That's so iconic to me, and that's Scream. Like that's the music of the franchise. So I was actually singing the song when I was watching the movie. Despite whatever was happening in that scene, I was singing the song because it was nostalgia. It was bringing back the original movies and that music, and I love that. I love that Gail went back to doing what she does best as reporter, being a reporter. Um, Scream 4, it was interesting, that she wasn't a reporter, that she, was just kind of living in Woodsboro and wasn't really living her life. Um, and, you know, it was good. It was interesting. But after 4, I would hope that Gail would get back into being a reporter, or she would get the opportunity or be able to write a book. And this movie went back to a lot of how Gail was in the first three movies, but also incorporated how she was in the fourth film. So Courtney Cox was very good in this movie. I enjoy her pretty much in every Scream film. I don't really have any complaints of any film, any Scream movie she's been in. And Nev Campbell. I love that now Sydney is married. She has kids. She's moved on with her life. She no longer seems to live in fear. She is very, very strong. We know that about Sydney. But she was very strong in this movie. Like, nothing can phase her, nothing can affect her, impact her. Like, she's been through everything to where nothing's a shock, nothing is a surprise. And you feel that way as an audience viewer at the same time, too. So I enjoyed Nev Campbell's performance in this film. She did a great job. I love seeing Sydney in the franchise as always. Um, I didn't necessarily enjoy that she had a short amount of screen time. Um, it wasn't like she only had like 10 minutes, of in the movie, but um, I was surprised that she didn't have more. Now, I know that they filmed this movie during the pandemic in 2020, so they probably could only get the actors when they could, or they had to be very creative. But also, this is a passing the torch on to a new generation of characters. I also enjoyed the body count. I like the brutality. Ghostface was very brutal in this film. I love that Stu's house is back in this movie. That they acknowledge it. They acknowledge the history of it, and that it's clever how they use the house in the movie. The new characters, I was intrigued. I was interested. I wanted to, get to know these characters. I wanted to like them, and there were about two or three that I really enjoyed. Characters. I love the four Wests at the end of the movie. I actually choked up at that part in the film at the very end. A tribute to Wes Craven and certain other things. Like, this is a non-spoiler review, so I don't really want to give anything away. um but I'll go as far as I can, but I'll try not to give anything away to people that haven't seen it yet. So those are the things that I mainly love about the movie. Why the movie is ranked so high up. And that the film does take chances. It takes risks. It doesn't it's not a generic Scream film where it's copy and paste. everything, you know, that you've seen in the first four movies. It's not that all over again at all. It's a little different. So I did enjoy that. All right, so now we're gonna get to the things that I didn't like, the cons, the parts that I didn't enjoy. Uh, the killer reveals. I won't reveal who they are. Anybody who hasn't seen, uh, the killer reveals, so I won't say who. Um, but people that have seen the movie, will they know who the killers are. And my opinion, they were a little too obvious. The first four, first four Scream films, the killer reveals were always a surprise in its own way. Especially the second film, that was Billy's mom. I mean, that was a big surprise. Um, the first one, Stu, I didn't expect that Stu was going to be Ghostface. I mean, that was a possibility, but I was surprised when I saw that film. Uh, Roman and Scream 3, I was still surprised. And then Scream 4, even though I read the leaks before that movie came out, I was still surprised because there was one of the killers that I didn't know. And so overall, pretty much the first four movies had unexpected reveals of these Ghostface killers. This film, this Scream movie is the most obvious out of all of them in terms of who the Ghostface killers are. I can see why in terms of like acting, getting, certain actors, and like getting the right actors to pull off that, that kind of, crazy and that kind of acting. But I was disappointed that it was obvious that it wasn't killers that I wasn't expecting. It wasn't a Scream film where you're like, oh my God, I would have never saw that. Um, it was it was not a shock. So that was the disappointing part of this movie more than anything was the killer reveals. And I avoided the internet for a few days, social media, because I was hoping it would pay off. Um, but at least to me, those killers weren't a surprise. So it was that kind of ruined a little bit of the enjoyment in terms of, oh, yeah, I so could have seen this coming. Also, what I didn't like about it was it goes so fast. The movie, the runtime, like the movie's like way too quick. Like it's an hour and 40, but I felt like it could have been longer. Oddly, out of all the Scream films, like a lot of them, they're long, especially the third one's like 2 hours. But uh, I would have been fine if this movie would have been like 20 minutes longer. I mean, I feel like it needed to be 20 minutes longer. It went so fast to where it was hard to process everything that was going on. So the pacing, though it was good, it was edited well, it went so quick. Um, Ghostface trying to kill in broad daylight, that was, I didn't like that. Um, that, I mean, this is non-spoiler review, so I can't really, I don't really want to say much. There were parts that didn't feel like Wes Craven, and that was expected, but those parts were effective because you're so used to Wes Craven being the director of all four films. So for any parts of Scream 5 to feel like it's not him was a little weird. Some of the character decisions weren't the smartest as well. I thought the characters could have been a little smarter in certain situations. Some of the characters, and I didn't like that Sydney had such a short amount of screen time in this film. I really didn't like that. Even Gail didn't have a lot of screen. I know that they were trying to focus on this new generation of characters, but I still felt like we could have gotten a little bit more out of those original characters, and I think that's what was lacking a little bit because I'm so used to those four movies and those characters. It's just so weird that they're not in it as much. They don't have such a they have an important role in this movie. Of course they do. They have a very important role, all three of them, but it just wasn't as like they weren't in it as much, and that was too bad. And I know that you have to introduce new characters and tell new stories, and keep Scream fresh and interesting, and not you know keep dwelling on certain characters. You want to flesh out this franchise, but they're the ones that made it work, and why the franchise is at where it's at. So I do wish that the original characters would have had a little bit more screen time in this. I felt like that their scenes were cut a little bit too short. And I just really enjoy that, original cast of characters, and it was just that was something that was a little lacking for me. Um, Also, that these new characters, some of them I really enjoyed, but then there was quite a few that I didn't. They weren't really, they weren't, I mean, even Scream 4, I enjoyed the characters like way more in Scream 4, and Scream 2 and the first film. They were, you know, in those original Scream films, they had characters that you were really drawn to, and those, it worked. And this film, you have characters that you care about and you connect with, but at the same time, it's the most like I feel like they could have done better with this new cast of characters. Because 4 was such a great fresh start for the franchise, and they got Hayden Panettiere and these actors for that film. And I just don't feel like this cast even, yeah, I just don't think this cast quite had the same impact that the cast from the fourth film had, or even the first two. Which I hate to say that, because I really want to give new generation of characters a chance, and some of them that may have survived this film, that could be in the next movie. Maybe they'll be fleshed out more. They could be fleshed out more. They could be more developed, and they might become more likable. Um, Also, we've seen with characters in movies, when they go through a traumatic event, then they start to become a little more relatable. They become more likable, because they become a little smarter of the situations that they're in, because they already went through it. Um, but uh, yeah, that was so pretty much those are my complaints about the movie that I can say without spoiling more about the film. Like there are things that I have complaints about the movie, but they're massive spoiler things, so I don't want to give that away. Um, and the film, like I said, it's just a lot to take in, and it goes really quick. And I feel like, because the series hasn't been around for like 11 years in terms of like the movies, this could have been a little longer, or they could have took their time a little bit more with the pacing. It just goes so quick, and there's so many characters, and it ends before you know it. And I just wish the movie would have been longer, which is weird, because like usually I like horror films to be a good hour and 35 minutes, or in that hour and 40-minute mark, even hour and 25 minutes. But this movie needed to be longer, because there's so much that is introduced and retold. And this sets up a new generation of Scream. And them doing that, it just felt like it needed to be longer. I don't know, it's just the first four films were paced a certain way, edited a certain way, where I didn't feel that way. Like, oh, it should have been longer. I just didn't feel that way about the first four movies. It's only this one that I feel that way. Um, and that's credit to Patrick Lussier, the editor of the first three movies, and also to Wes Craven. He understood film, and he seemed to understand post production. When you put a film together, and how a movie's supposed to be paced and toned and everything, to where you can't let your film drag on, but you have to, you know, not have it go way too fast. Give the audience some time to breathe, and take everything in that's going on. This movie didn't seem to care about that. It was just like this scene, this scene, this scene, this scene, this scene, this happens, this happens, this happens, this happens. The end. Um, it just goes very quick. And yeah, I have a little bit of mixed opinions on some things about the film because I'm such a fan of this franchise. I love this franchise, and I've made 6 Scream fan films, so it's almost like I had to watch the movie as not a critic or like a filmmaker, you know, and not try to compare it to any fan films that I've made or anything like that. Um, and go into the movie as this is Scream 5. I feel like I need to see this movie a few more times. I have to watch it a lot more. Um, and once I do, then I will make a spoiler review of the movie for you guys. And I will go into more about this movie, the stuff that I can talk about that I don't want to talk about yet, because this movie just came out and I just don't want to give anything away to people that haven't seen it. But go see it. If you're a Scream fan, go see it. It's a great tribute to Wes Craven. I think Wes Craven would have really enjoyed this movie. But I think Wes Craven would have had his opinion about the movie as well. And I think this is a great reset for the franchise, but it's not the perfect Scream movie at all. And it's not the first movie, and it's not Scream 2. And, I always hope that, the next movie is going to be the best, Scream film, or the next sequel to any franchise will be the best movie. But it's not always the case. And with this movie, I had a lot of hype for it. There was a lot of anticipation because it was an 11-year wait. I remember after Scream 4 came out, I was like, I can't wait for Scream 5. Scream 5, come on, make Scream 5. So it was talked about for a long time. Then it never happened. Wes Craven sadly passed away, and then there was the Harvey Weinstein stuff. They had the Scream show for a while, which was a lot of fun. Season 3 could have been a little better, but the franchise stayed around. It just I thought for at a certain point that Scream 5 wasn't going to happen, and that's when, like, I don't know, the first 3 seasons of Scream came out. I was like, you know what, they're not going to make another Scream movie. This is it. But once I heard the news that they were making a Scream 5 and they got directors for it, and they were casting and it was really happening, I was like, what? So I got excited, but I was nervous because it wasn't going to be Wes Craven directing it. It wasn't going to be Kevin Williamson writing it, even though I don't know why Kevin Williamson would not want to write a Scream movie. It was a really good Scream film, and I enjoyed many, many parts of it. And it's a Scream film that I'm going to rewatch a lot. And it's a great add-on to the franchise, but I'm going to need to rewatch it quite a few times because I do have certain complaints about it. But yeah, great reset button for the franchise, and let's see where the franchise takes us now. A Scream 6. You know, I think the next Scream movie, if they do make one, it's not going to be called Scream 6, even though I would love that. I think they'll call it Scream Louder or Scream Again. If they call it Scream Kills, I'll be really mad because that's not a catchy tagline of a title. Scream Kills, it just doesn't work. But Scream Louder is actually, I think that would be the title I would go with if they are not going to number the sequels. And Scream Again. Scream Again is very simple. And then another one, Scream Forever, because I always think of Batman Forever. What about Scream Forever? What if, Scream Forever, I feel like those would be good titles for the next one. So I say Scream Again or Scream Louder. And if they make another one after, Scream Forever or something like that. But Scream Kills, don't copycat the Halloween franchise. Do your own thing. The Scream franchise, don't mimic what Halloween franchise is doing. And yeah, so that's my review of Scream 5, non-spoiler. I would love to talk more about it, but you know, that's going to be another review down the road, is a spoiler review. I saw it with my sister. I saw it with one of my friends. We saw it in Philadelphia, and I saw it at a movie theater that I've never gone to before, and it was a lot of fun. It was really really cool. But it wasn't a packed theater, so it was a little awkward in the sense that I feel like I was talking throughout the whole movie, or I was like the only one in there in the sense that like people weren't applauding the movie or really, you know, so invested in, I mean, people were invested in it, I could tell, but um, you know, you want to be with an audience that you want to be with this audience when it comes to a Scream film where people are really enjoying it. And the fourth movie, I had a lot of fun with that audience. People were clapping at the end of that movie and cheering, and it was a lot of fun. That re-release of Scream was so much fun. The audience was reacting to, you know, a film in 1996, but you know, it was, people are acting like it was a new movie. I mean, it was a lot of fun. But this time around, I didn't. The audience just wasn't as engaged or as involved as previous um, Scream movies that I've seen in the theater. So that was really the only negative side. I feel like I would have enjoyed the movie more if the audience was more involved. Just like I enjoyed Scream 4 more because the audience was involved. I enjoyed the Scream re-release more because the audience was involved. So, I don't know. If I go see this movie again, maybe it'll be with an audience that's a little more packed, a little more, you know, reacting to the film. And maybe that'll, you know, I'll react to the movie a little differently. But yeah, that's my review, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Stay tuned for my spoiler review of Scream 5, and I will talk to you all very soon. All right, peace.